guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be rating my Natasha Denona Eyeshadow palettes. She did just come out with a release called the Circo Loco Palette, and I want to talk about that palette as well as rating all of my Natasha Denona Eyeshadow palettes. If that is something you guys are interested in, make sure you guys hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, and let's get on with the video. Alright, so my basically why I'm doing this video. My reason for doing this video is I know the VIB sale from Sephora is coming up, and a lot of people have been interested in Natasha Denona palettes. That's usually when a lot of people purchase her more high-priced palettes. This is a pretty pricey brand as far as her eyeshadow palettes. She has her larger palettes, which retail for $129. I actually have 3 of those. I have the Natasha Denona Biba, I have the Gold, and I have the Metropolis. Those are the ones that retail for $129. And her new release, which is a Circo Loco Palette, which I'll pop a picture up right here. I know that people have been interested in purchasing her palette, especially now with the VIB sale coming up. A lot of people do take advantage of the sale and purchase her higher end palettes. Again, these retail for $129. I have the Biba, I have the Gold, and I have the Metropolis. For the mini size, I have her $65 palettes. I have the Bronze and I have the Glam, which I know a lot of people have been enjoying the Glam, and I myself enjoy the Glam. But I know this one sells out really fast. So the Bronze and the Glam. And then I have like one of her more, like the 5 pans that are a little bit bigger. These retail for $48, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken. I'll put all the prices and information down below as well in my description box. But yeah, these ones retail for $48. And I have her minis that retail for $25. But this one I did get on a sale for $12 something. This one I don't think it's available anymore. This is the mini Lila palette. So on today's video, what I'm basically going to talk about is I'm going to be showing you guys my swatches of what I think the Circo Loco palette is kind of based off of what I have, like all of my palettes combined. I pulled shadows from all of these palettes. I pulled shadows from this palette. I pulled some shadows from the Bronze palette, from the Metropolis, mostly from the Gold, and I think one from the Biba. I will go ahead and put my picture of my swatches here so you guys can see my swatches. I'll put a picture of the swatches of the Circo Loco palette on the Sephora website. My pictures that I'm showing you guys are from the Sephora website, just so you guys know. Now, I know a lot of people do want to purchase her palettes, especially on the VIB sale or like get them on sale or discount. So I'm going to be showing you guys what I think is my favorite palettes personally, what I think is worth your money, what I think is not worth your money. If I do think, I'm going to talk about her prices as well. I think that some of these prices could have been arranged to be a little bit more inexpensive than what they are. So for the first example, I'm going to be talking about the Metropolis palette. This was supposed to be a limited edition palette, but it's still available. This is the Metropolis. It retails for $129. You get like a blue kind of etching, you think, kind of similar as her regular packaging. You get a nice big mirror. You have a thing that has the names on it. And these are all the shadows you get in this palette. You get a lot of shadows. You get a lot of different formulations. This one has her most, I think this one is the one that has the most cream to powder formulation, which I do love from her. You get a lot of those shades. I do enjoy, however, using more of the green tones and gold tones. So I do love this palette. The only reason I do not think this is a lot of the times worth the money is I think this palette could have gone a little bit down in price. Comparing it to $129, for example, I'm going to be showing you the Gold palette here next to it so you guys can see the pan sizes. You do get more shades, I get it, but the pan sizes is what kind of gets me at the price range. This is the Gold, this is the Metropolis. You guys can see the pan sizes are very different, and I think this palette should have been around maybe $80, not $129. I think she could have gone a little bit less as far as the pricing on this palette, but I do enjoy the shades. However, I think that this is a really nice palette. I do like the formulation. Like I mentioned, I love her cream to powder formulation, and I'm going to tell you right now, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shades that are the cream to powder formulation. So I have this shade here, this shade, this one I think is a cream to powder, this blue one, these 2 browns. And I do love this formulation of this palette. Like I said, this is one that I reach for mostly in the fall. You can see the fall tones in there. And it has those pops of blues and pops of oranges that I did use in the swatches. So I think that price point of this palette could have been arranged to be a little bit less. Maybe like around the $75 to $80 price range. That's just my opinion as a consumer personally. Okay, I'm going to talk about the #1 palette in my collection. My #1 palette is the Bronze palette. I do love this palette from Natasha Denona. These retail for $65. These are her midi size palettes. I will go ahead and show you this palette. I know mine looks a little messy, but this is my Natasha Denona Bronze palette. You get a bunch of bronzy kind of gold shimmers. You get a little pop of purples. These are very, very pretty and very unique in my opinion. especially this shade right here in Rhodium. It's just so pretty. And I think this palette to me is my favorite because I do get those pops of gold. I get more neutrals. I get those different shades of purple. I do like to use sometimes just even this by itself all over my lid. You get something that could be your inner corner. You get really shimmery shades here. And you get like those red tones that I think are also very beautiful. And this one here that kind of has like a little bit of a shift. I just think these are very pretty and very unique in my opinion. And I think that this is why this is my favorite palette. As soon as I bought this palette, this is the one that I reached for the most. So before this one, however, my number 2 palette is my Natasha Denona Biba palette. This palette I just love. I think you can, if you're kind of the one that's looking for an all-in-one palette, I think if you don't really like a lot of colors and if you're sticking to your neutrals and if you're interested in purchasing one of her palettes and you're someone that likes everyday looks and neutral looks, I think this is going to be the one that you want because you get your cool tones, you get your warm tones, you get your neutrals, you get a little bit of shimmers, you get 1, 2, 3 shimmers, and they vary. This one's a little bit warmer, this one's a little bit more cool tone. They are very pretty. So you do get a little bit of everything in this palette, I think, in my opinion. You get a little bit of a bronze shade here. And again, you get your cool tones. You get these beautiful shades that are kind of, like I said, that creamy formulation. You can use as a full liner. The brown one or the gray one in Tor is also a similar formulation. I think they're just very nice and very, very much, very versatile as far as a neutral palette. You get your warms. Like I said, you can make a very neutral look. You can make a very smoky look with these shades right here. You can do something very smoky. Even with the black and the gray, you can do a very cool tone look. Now, this is my number 2 palette for my favorites, okay? I'm going to talk about the lowest rated palette. So I have a total of 6, like I mentioned. Actually, I have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The lowest rated palette in my collection is the Mini Lila. This one I did get on sale, like I mentioned. I did use some of these purples to swatch as the swatches, that I have on my own compared to the Circo Loco. The Circo Loco, the reason I'm not purchasing it is I just don't think I will use that color story. I am a more neutral kind of, I do certain looks that are more colorful, but I've been leaning more neutral as a regular consumer. So I don't think those pops of color would be my best bet. Now, I will say, Christina Brooke, she is a YouTuber here on, the platform I've been watching for a long time. She used to be the Glam Ranch, I believe. She did rearrange her palette. She showed a lot of more, versatile looks that can be done for the for the visual person that sees, color stories visually. I get the way Natasha Denona rearranges her palettes are because she is a makeup artist and she sees them in a different way. For the regular person, I think that the way that Christina Brooke set up her new palette is the way that I think I would naturally think the shades would rearrange. Now, I will link her, I'll try to put her channel down below. If not, you guys can just go search for Christina Brooke. She did do her palette, and I think the fact that she did that, the fact that she went out of her way to make the palette look more pleasing to the normal eye, to someone that's not really like, not to be mean or say like anything, but to someone that's not really like artistic or like sees it in like a color palette. I think for someone that's just like a neutral person, like more, not neutral person, but someone that's like an everyday person. Like for example, me, I have a neutral, I love a lot of neutrals. So just the way that she set it up, I think just sets the bar for how much she cares for one and how much she makes the palette look very useful for someone that does everyday looks. Mind you, there's still very colorful shades. So again, I did reach for some of these. I don't like this palette. This shade in particular is very, very patchy. This shade's okay. This shade's beautiful. This shade's beautiful. This shade's perfect, normal, just a crease shade. But this shade's the one that really stank. And I know a lot of people talked about this mini not being as blendable as some of her regular formulations are. I think a lot of people say that her minis are a way to try her formulation, but I don't think that's true. I don't think that's the case in a lot of her minis. I think the best way to try Natasha Denona formulation is maybe purchasing one of her bigger size palettes. These are the ones that retail for $48. You are still paying a lot of money for 5 shades. I think that's still a lot, but you are getting a taste of her formulation, what it actually is. The minis, I mean, some of them do show her formulation. Like I know a lot of people love the Zendo, a lot of people love the Retro, which I never got, and I'm kind of tempting to get those on the VIB sale. But I really think that the best way to get her formulation, a taste of her formulation, is these ones that retail for $48. Like again, that's still very pricey for 5 shades. So just keep that in mind. But I do think I did get these in a VIB sale, these two. So just keep that in mind again. I think this one retails the lowest. Rates the lowest in my collection because of that, because it's not very blendable. The shades get patchy and muddy and it just does not work. So number 1 and number 2 is my bronze and my Biba. Number 3, I think for my favorites, will be my Metropolis palette. Just because you do get all those shades, like I mentioned. You get all those shades, you get, you know, your more golds, your more greens, you get those blues, you get those oranges, you kind of get a little bit of everything. The only thing that I do wish this one had, I wish it had a little bit more gray tones, like more like what the Glam has. I'll go ahead and show you the Glam. I wish that a lot of these shades, and I could move the shades around. Like I said, I can move my palettes around, but I just like to keep my shades how they are. This is the Glam palette from Natasha Denona. I just think if she added some of these grays and, you know, more neutrals to this side of the palette, it would have kind of been more cohesive as far as using these, you know, more kind of green, khaki greens. But nonetheless, I think that the way she set up this palette is beautiful. Like I mentioned, you can always pop these out and switch them around because they are magnetic. Just me personally, I don't do that because I like to keep them how she sets them up. So yeah, this is my number 3 favorite as far as my palettes. So the first one, like I mentioned, is the bronze. My second one is the Biba. My third would be the Metropolis. Keep in mind, this is the $65 one. These two are $129. After that, the 4th palette in my collection will be my gold palette. This is another $129 palette. You get the same thing. You get a mirror, you get the sheet that has the shade names, and here are your shades. Now, same thing with the bronze and the Metropolis. You get a lot of those neutrals, you get a lot of those golds, and I think that's the one thing that I love about this one. And you also get these like kind of like shimmer topper that's also very unique and very pretty. You get these blues that are very unique, and this one has like a shift of green as well. I just think these are very unique in this palette, and I love this one. I think that this is one of the ones that I reach for the most as far as like everyday looks. I love these shades here. This shade here is my favorite as well. I do enjoy this shade a lot. I just think this is a really nice all over the lid shade for like an everyday quick look. Sometimes I'll just pop any kind of crease shade, anything, any of these colors, even the deep one, I'll just pop it on my crease and just pop a shimmer and go out the door. So I think that's the reason that I do rate this one, you know, more than the Glam palette, because I myself enjoy more warm, more neutral looks in comparison to cool tone looks. However, I will say something that I know a lot of people give crap for. So number 1 is the bronze, of course. Number 2 is the Biba. Number 3 is the Metropolis. Number 4 is the gold. The reason number 5 is my Glam palette is because this is something that I only reach for, mostly reach for, when I have an event to go to, when I have like holidays, when I have, you know, around Christmas and New Year's. This is the one that I reached for on New Year's last year. And you can see that it's not as used as my other palettes because it is a little bit newer to me as well. You know, I purchased it sometime last year, I believe, and it's just one of those palettes that I think I reach for more when I do more like event looks. Another reason that I think I don't reach for this one as much is unfortunately because of the way that the shade names are. A lot of these palettes, you know, don't have the names on them, but for example, like the bronze does, and these all have different names on them, okay? But for this Glam palette, what she did is she kind of made it to where the shades have, like, for example, center eyelid, outer eyelid, inner corner, crease, transition, smoke, blend, lash line, inner corner, center eyelid, outer eyelid, center eyelid, outer eyelid, and brow bone. And in my opinion, as a makeup lover and what I know I have in my collection, I would have preferred if she gave these shade names. Instead of doing outer corner, inner corner, crease, lid, transition, all that stuff, I would have rather have her, I would have preferred if she gave this palette, you know, shade names. That's just me personally as a regular makeup lover. But if someone that is new to makeup, someone that doesn't know what to do, maybe that helps them. You know, you're going to put this as your transition. You're going to use this as your crease. You're going to use this to blend the crease. You're going to use this on your lash line. You're going to use this to smoke a smoky eyeshadow look. You're going to want to use this in your inner corner, your center eyelid, you know, your outer eyelids, things like that. The one shade that I will say I have not touched in this palette is this one right here. And I'm not sure even why, because I do love those bronzy tones. It's really pretty, but it's not really much. It's just like a simple shimmer, like a more, you know, that's not glittery, kind of like compared to this outer eyelid and inner corner that are more shimmery. This one here that I have not touched until now is more like neutral, like more So I do love those shades. Like I said, this is just something that I think is more for a cool tone lover. And I do like cool tones, just not for everyday looks. This shade's leaning a little bit more warmer. You kind of get more cool tones. Like, I think this whole 6 quad, like if you were looking at it like this, you have a 6-pan palette right there that has light shades and, you know, more cool tones. In the middle, you get a shade range that is, you know, neutral, but you get a little bit of warmth and a little bit of cool toneness. These 6 shades just range a little bit more warm tone. Same thing if you were just using this shade range, you get a little bit of more warms and more cool. Like, you mostly you're warm right there. You get your warmth. Same thing here. If I was to cut these out, you get a lot of more, you know, cool tones. And I think the way that it's set up, it's nice. I know a lot of people did rearrange their palettes. Like I said, I just don't personally rearrange my palettes just because I go based off of what she does in her videos and her looks and everything like that. And I want to keep my palettes how they come out now normally, okay? So that being said, after those palettes, I think if I didn't have any of those palettes, for example, if I didn't have any of these bigger shadow palettes, I think this would have ranked higher. This one does rank number 6 because it is obviously your neutral palette. You get a little pop of shimmer here, maybe for your inner corner, your brow bone. This is like the everyday palette that I think someone that doesn't have a lot of palettes like I do would enjoy. This one has like a crease shade, your brow bone, your lighter transition shade, your, you know, your lid shade, and something else. Maybe you can use this to smoke, and maybe you can use this as your crease and your transition, something like that. But for me personally, I don't really reach for this one unless I bring in my collection. Like if I have a palette that has a lot of colorful tones, this is the palette that I'll pull with a lot of those colorful palettes in my Shop My Stashes. And you guys have seen me do that. You guys have seen that when I pull a lot of colorful palettes, I pull this in my Shop My Stash because of the neutral palettes. Because of the neutral shades, and the versatility with these neutrals is really pretty. So last place obviously goes to the Mini Lila. 6th place. So 7th place, 6th place. 8th place is my Glam. 9th place goes to my Gold. Not necessarily because it's a bad palette, it's just where it lands on my rating. Then it's the Metropolis. Then it's the Biba, which you see my number 1 until I found the bronze palette. So this is where my palettes rate for me in my collection. Again, keep in mind that these palettes are a little bit more pricier because you are paying for the luxury of the brand. You know, you're paying for a makeup artist brand. You're paying for what the envisioning of a makeup artist is. So I think also you have to keep that in mind because she is a makeup artist. She does a lot of more, you know, editorial looks. She does a lot of more crazier looks. Like I mentioned, the Circo Loco palette is just something that I totally skipped on. I also skipped on her duochrome or triochrome palette just because it's just not something that I know I'd reach for. Again, it's just those more colorful tones. You guys see that I have most of her neutral palettes and her, you know, cool tone palettes. It's not something that I reach for, you know. I think if anything, the most colorful one is the Metropolis, in my opinion. And I keep showing you guys this one just because I do like this one a whole lot. I think if I didn't reach for the Natasha Denona Biba as much as I do, the Metropolis just probably would have landed in 2nd place. If I didn't have this palette at all, I would have probably put Metropolis in 2nd place. But because I do reach for this one on mostly every day, to be honest, like if I'm not even recording, I reach for this one on an everyday basis. This is the one that I put in 2nd place because it used to be my number 1. And now the bronze has taken over because I just love this. Even if it's not fall, if it's not summer, I use these every single day. You know, just yesterday I actually wore one of these shades on my crease, and then I put shimmer on my lid, and that's it. I'm out the door. So I do use these. I know they're expensive, and I know, you know, a lot of people give her shit for her price range, but I understand. Her formulation is just nothing compared to any of my shadows. It's just really, really good. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed my video. I hope you guys didn't mind me rambling. I hope you guys kind of get to know what I think as far as palettes, like how I see prices and everything. I don't always justify a high price range, but I understand why her prices are a little bit higher as far as her palettes. So yeah, if you guys are interested in picking up any of these palettes on the VIB sale, I would recommend, you know, it's not a whole lot of a discount, but it's something better than nothing. So yeah, without further ado, I hope you guys have a good day, night, wherever you guys are, whenever you see this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.